What's up, everybody? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. In case you can't tell what the subject matter of today's show is, tonight's show, Monday night, we are 1 day away, 1 day removed, shall I say, from the Buffalo Bills' 27-17 Week 1 victory over the New Jersey, as I like to say, New Jersey, but New York Jets. Throwing shade at the New York Jets. The likes and dislikes from the Buffalo Bills, Week 1, 27-17 win over the New York Jets. I'm diving into your questions, your likes, your dislikes. You control the Thomas Take Sports podcast. You ask me the questions. I will answer them on this show live for you right now. So fire some comments in my direction, and I'm going to read off your comments live on this video as well. The comments that were given to me during this, my likes and dislike, status that I posted earlier today. Kevin Andrew Johnston, says, "Hey Ryan, how about those Bills?" Hey Kevin, thanks for the comment. How about those Bills? 1-0 to start the 2020 season. I'm very excited that they are 1-0. It's nice to start the season off with a win. Earlier today, I did post the likes and dislikes. What did you guys like? What did you guys dislike? What did you guys think of the Buffalo Bills game? What did you guys think? I want to know what your thoughts are. Oftentimes, I provide my thoughts on the show of how the Bills are doing, where I think they need to be better, how I think they need to be better. This time around, I want to hear what your takes are on the Thomas Take Sports podcast, a little bit of a collaboration, if you will. So as of right now, we got a lot of comments trickling in, and we're going to have a lot more comments trickling in here, and I'm excited to read them off on the show live for the Buffalo Bills fans and kind of get a general consensus on where you guys are at in terms of this Buffalo Bills team and this Buffalo Bills team moving forward as we head into Week 2. So, one of my biggest fans, Tim Giles, says, Milano injury, thoughts? Oh, man, Tim, this would be a tough injury for the Buffalo Bills to get over. No doubt about it. If Milano is out for any extended period of time, he is such a crucial piece to this Buffalo Bills defense. And if Milano is out for any extended period of time, the depth at linebacker is so tough to find in today's National Football League because a lot of these defensive-minded coaches, like Sean McDermott, ask so much of those outside linebackers. And I finally felt like Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano towards the end of last season were actually starting to really come together and work in unison a lot better. And if Milano is out, it will take away from Edmunds. And my next, segue to that is Edmunds. I'll wait till someone fires down a question about that, but I also want to answer some more questions from the Buffalo Bills fans. But I don't think Milano will be out too long. If he is out, they're saying that it's day to day. And in terms of Edmunds wasn't wearing a brace or wasn't sporting any ice or anything like that after the game in the locker room. Per Josh Reed today, he posted that on Twitter. So that was that's encouraging, and I think that's important. We need those guys out there for this Buffalo Bills defense, especially. Kevin says, I thought Josh looked really good. I thought Josh looked really good as well outside of those 2 fumbles. Had Josh Allen not fumbled, man, I thought he looked great. I thought Josh Allen was phenomenal in that game yesterday. 312 passing yards, 3 total touchdowns, 2 via the passing game, 1 via running it into the end zone. The first Bills touchdown of 2020, of course. A rushing touchdown from Josh Allen. That was great to see. This rushing prowess of this quarterback in Josh Allen is second to none in the AFC. I mean, there are a lot of guys that can move in the pocket Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow. We're seeing the mobility that Joe Burrow has. Even in his first career NFL start, he runs for a 25-yard touchdown. If you guys didn't see that run, it was Josh Allen-esque. He waits for the block to get set up. He waits for the defense to kind of bite and made that happen. And Josh Allen's done that a time or two. Bill Claremont Jr. says, can't put the ball on the ground. Should have dropped 40. The kid looked good besides the cough-ups. Also shocked we didn't run the ball more. I'm right there with you as far as not being able to run the ball a little bit more in this game. Devin Singletary had 9 carries. Zach Moss had 9 carries. Devin Singletary far more efficient yards per carry clip than Moss was, but Moss ended up with a receiving touchdown, so his day was a little bit better on the stat sheet than Singletary's. But even the broadcast mentioned it, Bill. They even said, wow, this is Devin Singletary's first touch in this game, and it was a good amount of time in the game, in the first half, that it took the Buffalo Bills to get the ball to Devin Singletary and put it in his hands. Kevin Andrew Johnston with another question. How do you like seeing Diggs playing his first game as a Bill? I think, man, to put this mildly, Kevin, it just goes to show you just how truly bad this Buffalo Bills team needed a wide receiver one. Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas. There are certain guys in this league that are such fantastic route runners that they can just open up an offense to a completely new level. And Stephon Diggs has that ability as a route runner, as a contested ball-catching receiver. I've talked about it so many times until I'm blue in the face. As a contested ball-catching receiver, Stephon Diggs is one of the best in the league. And there are a lot of really good ones. Some of them I've mentioned already. But Stephon Diggs, 8 catches, 86, 88 yards, somewhere along those lines. And Josh Allen was just 2 seconds late to getting Stephon Diggs the ball and making, that a reality in the end zone with Allen to Diggs. And I think all of Bills Mafia watching at home, watching in a COVID-friendly bar, would have been ecstatic to see Josh Allen link up with Stephon Diggs in the end zone. Getting a lot of traffic here, 23 people live. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast live on Facebook. I'm Ryan Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. So who do we got here? We got Tim throwing down another comment here. Bass, my thoughts team-wise are get Allen some ball security when running the ball. Bass some time in the big time. Buffalo will be a force to be reckoned with. Week 1 jitters, right, Tim? Week 1 jitters in terms of there was no preseason. The training camp was unlike anything we have ever seen in quite some time. I think that has to be stated here, and we're not making excuses for any struggles that this Buffalo Bills team has. It's just the reality of the situation, right? The fact that this team didn't get the proper training camp, didn't get the proper preseason reps that they're accustomed to. Each team relies on those reps. As much as I can't stand the Buffalo Bills preseason or any preseason team, preseason football at all, I can't stand it. I haven't been a fan of it in quite some time. I would love to see this league just completely eradicate preseason football in general, but now that we actually have seen that take place with no preseason football in the National Football League this year, I think it shows how crucial it is to have preseason football for every team, not 4 weeks of it, but maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks of it next year. That's something that, the powers that be in the National Football League need to talk about that. They need to go over that and make that a reality. Jason Towell says, do you think Josh will avoid injury running the ball 14 times a game? I don't. I don't think he will avoid injury. For as tough as Josh Allen is, Jason, no quarterback should be, getting hit at the rate that Josh Allen does. This goes back to his rookie season. This goes back to last season, and it carries over to yesterday's game. These designed runs were my biggest point of contention last night when I took to the audio side of things on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify show, where I talked specifically about Josh Allen and these designed runs. Designed runs for Josh Allen. We really don't understand this quite yet because we haven't seen it over a prolonged period of time. And what I mean by it is Josh Allen being the week in, week out starter, being that cog as the quarterback in the lineup. Granted, this is his third season in the National Football League, but if Josh Allen were to get hurt to the point where he's out, God forbid, right? God forbid, for even 4 weeks, okay? Jason, to Jason's question, if Josh Allen is hurt for even 4 weeks, this season's up in smoke. I mean, I don't believe in Matt Barkley as the QB2 of this team. I don't. Jake Fromm has a below average NFL arm. He's very instinctive. He's very accurate in certain facets of the field, certain throws. But as an NFL quarterback, it is a cliche. You need that NFL quarterback to make all the throws. He's got to be a guy that you can rely on for every single throw within an NFL game. And Jake Fromm, as much as I liked Jake Fromm in Georgia, at the NFL level, that's a lot to ask. If Matt Barkley comes in for Josh Allen, God forbid we're just playing scenarios. If Josh Allen continues to get these design runs from offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, and I'm going to ask you guys to, fire more questions here, but if he continues to get the ball from design runs, he's going to get hurt. It's just a matter of time. I hate to say it. It frustrates me to say it. It pains me to say it. I don't want to say it because I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Josh Allen under center in shotgun running the ball, not just running the ball in a designed run, but running the ball up the middle as if he's Derrick Henry or as if he's Leonard Fournette. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. William McMillan Jr., what's up, buddy? He says, read option not working right. Took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, this has been a problem for about a year and a half now. I mean, this goes back even to last season. This goes back to the fact that Brian Daboll kind of off the cuff made remarks about how he didn't feel like he had enough weaponry within the Bills offense, and he had to use Josh Allen in a lot of different ways to add new wrinkles to this offense. Well, now you don't need to do that, Brian Daboll. Now you got Zach Moss. Now you got another year of Devin Singletary. Lamar Miller was brought in on a free agent visit. I heard he visited. I didn't hear much after that. I think it's crucial for this team that they have 3 fair or average or better than average, however you want to rate these running backs. They need to have 3 solid running backs on this team. 3 guys that could carry the workload. If one guy goes down, the other guy takes a spot. If 2 guys go down, the third guy could be potentially an adequate running back, only for them to bring up somebody from the practice squad, like Tywan Jones or, dare I say, Christian Wade, somebody that can actually carry the workload. And, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, I think, are 2 really good backs that complement one another really well. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what takes place within that, season as far as both of those guys matching up together. Jason says, what did you think of Trent Murphy's performance? Trent Murphy, oddly enough, is a guy that I did not want on this team. And he impressed me yesterday. I thought he looked pretty good. Justin Zimmer made a beautiful stop on Le'Veon Bell. That came out of nowhere to me. Justin Zimmer being added to this team fairly late in the process. And he looked really good in the limited action that he got. I want to answer some of the questions as well that I received from the likes and dislikes post status that I posted earlier today. You guys can continue to fire comments at me. I'm not going anywhere. So Rich K says, the way we moved the ball and finished the 3 scoring drives, did not like the 2 fumbles and 2 missed field goals. Technically, it was 1 missed field goal, I believe. Those mistakes, technically, it was 1. What the hell was up with that, by the way? That was a that was a goddamn joke. I mean, it really was. When the broadcast showed that oh, Tyler Bass made that kick, what the hell is going on, NFL? Like, really, it's 2020. For Pete's sake, get your shit together. Those mistakes would be the difference against a team in the upper echelon. And that's the echelon that Bills fans believe that this team belongs in. Let's be honest, this Bills offense has as many weapons as it's had on it in quite some time. This is not a team that we think should be 8-8. This is not a team that should be 9-7 like typical Buffalo Bills teams. This is a team that we believe could be 11-5, 12-4, running the gauntlet, running the AFC East, and being a team that should be feared within an AFC playoff race. The Bills won yesterday, and I'm not going to do my, dare I say, Jerry Sullivan impression and nitpick a win. I can't stand that. It's one of those things that, kind of annoys me that some, analysts, journalists, podcasters do. But at the same time, I look at this game yesterday and say 27-17 against Adam Gase's New York Jets, 27-17. That's not good enough for me. And granted, it's week one. Granted, they didn't have the practice time that they normally do and didn't play the preseason reps that they are accustomed to playing. But this game, the first half, the Bills offense came out, weapons hot. They came out very, very hot. And I thought that they would ride that momentum into the second half, and they eased up a little bit. They let the Jets back into it a little bit, and I didn't like that. We'll talk about that. Jordan Miller, the funny guy, Jordan Miller, Josh's fumbles and the injuries to Edmonds and Milano. Any update on what the injuries were? Also a time they're expected back. Touched on it at the beginning of the show a little bit there, Jordan, but in particular, Edmonds, his injury, I don't think is too serious. He didn't wear a wrap or a brace or anything like that. Matt Milano, on the other hand, he was under the tent, and they said that he is day-to-day. They said Edmonds is day-to-day as well. Day-to-day, a day-to-day, designation is pretty positive in the whole scheme of things. Day-to-day means we're waiting and seeing if they're available for this upcoming game. Chances are they will be. Chances are if they are not, they will then be available, for the next week's game. And we're going to see a lot of injuries across the league. We're going to see a lot of injuries from teams that, from players that they're not in the shape that they are normally in. Not cardio-wise, but I would say as far as the rigors of an NFL offseason and getting your body accustomed to those rigors, they didn't do that this year. And they're playing, kind of from behind physically. And that'll be interesting to see as the season wears on. Pat Sherwood says, only thing I was wondering was where was Ed Oliver? I don't think I heard them say his name once. I actually talked about that yesterday when I was watching the game with my dad. I said, Ed Oliver, I've barely seen him out there. I think the defensive line is kind of trying to figure out what rotation actually fits with certain players. And I will say this, and a lot of Bills fans, I hope, would agree with me on this, but Star Lotulelei, him opting out, I think will hurt this team far more than what people have talked about. I know Star is a highly paid player. They restructured his deal. Is he worth the contract he's getting production-wise? Probably not, to be honest. But finding that next guy that can do the things that Star Lotulelei can do is really tough to do, especially when as a run defender, that is his lane. With Ed Oliver or with Harrison Phillips, now that guy's out. Now you got Justin Zimmer in there. We're trying to figure out what rotations actually fit with the guys that we have. And, I think that might be why Ed Oliver had a little bit of a quiet day. Plus, Ed Oliver's been double teamed, the majority of his NFL career. And someone will reap the reward of that. It was Jordan Phillips last year. He goes to Arizona. My memory serves me right. And I think someone else will reap the reward of that as well. I think maybe it's Harrison Phillips. that reaps the reward of that as well. So let's dive into more. We got 2 comments on here. Jason says, I think to take that step into the elite talk, we have to keep the pedal to the metal mentality. And I mean, it's obviously in the rear view now this week, yesterday's game. It's in the rear view mirror, but they need to carry over what they did well, obviously, and they need to really enhance their ability to fix what they didn't do well. That's what great teams do. They're willing to acknowledge, hey, we could have been better. And I think with this Bills regime, the only thing that I have to say, and I wouldn't really say in a negative way, I don't think they realize how good this team actually is. I think they realize this team has gotten remarkably better over the last 2-3 years. But this should be the big jump from being contenders or pretenders, should I say, AFC wildcard, pretenders, playoff pretenders, sneaking in due to Cincinnati beating Baltimore, or, getting in and being one and done against Houston. We need to really deviate away from that version of the Bills and become a version of the Bills that are running the gauntlet of the AFC and being one of those top tier AFC teams, with Kansas City, with Baltimore. And obviously, Buffalo is one of those teams, I think. On paper, there's no reason why this team shouldn't be mentioned in the same breath as Kansas City and Baltimore. I'm sorry. I've said this on national shows. I've said this on, podcasts. I've said this, across the country on shows that I've been on. The Bills should be like that third team as far as the pecking order of the AFC. It should be KC, Baltimore, Buffalo, Pittsburgh playing tonight. Their defense is really good, and I think Big Ben has a point to prove as far as his longevity and durability goes. He's always been a durable guy, but missing pretty much all of last season. He wants to stay healthy and be that, shoulder to cry on for Pittsburgh Steelers fans as far as being that leader. So let's see here. We got more comments. Let's see here. Nick B says, love when Josh threads the needle. Hate when he is involved on a designed run play. I mean, I could say it till I'm blue in the face, red in the face. I don't want to see that anymore. I don't want to see it at all. If Josh Allen runs the football, that's okay. On a designed run play, no. The franchise invested far too much in Josh Allen to see that investment go to waste and to see that investment crumble based on Brian Daboll's inability to call plays effectively. That's really what that comes down to. Hey, I'm going to use my quarterback as a runner. Josh Allen is not Kyler Murray. Josh Allen is not Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen is not, Doug Flutie. There are these guys that are made to run and be effective while scrambling. Most of those guys are smaller. They're tougher to find through the cracks. They slip through the cracks. Josh Allen's a big guy. He's 6'5", 240 pounds. He moves very well. He's very athletic. No doubt about that. But the bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? So Josh Allen taking those hits the way that he has over the course of his 3-year career now, his third season, that's a recipe for disaster. And the franchise has invested far too much in Josh Allen for us to squander that investment based on Brian Daboll's inability to use the weapons that he has. And this is a Brian Daboll issue. I mean, for us to scoff at that, for us to say, no, they won the game yesterday. They did win the game yesterday. They beat a really bad Jets team. And I'm going to get to that. No doubt about it. But we would have won far more soundly if Brian Daboll was willing to just let Josh Allen use the weapons around him rather than using Allen as a weapon himself. That's not going to produce the best Josh Allen. Granted, he threw for 300 yards yesterday, 312 yards. First guy to do it in 4 years. Could have threw for over 350. Could have threw for over 370 if you take away the 2 fumbles and the fact he had those stupid design runs from Brian Daboll. It is what it is. We will acknowledge that. Not only as fans, but analysts, podcasters, journalists should all acknowledge that. It's a real problem. Michael Bradley says fumbles. That's it. That's his only gripe. That's his take. That's the Michael Bradley take. I agree with it. I mean, the fumbles, he hadn't taken hits practically all season long. He hadn't taken hits all off season long. Before you guys give me crap for my hoodie, let me dive into it. He didn't take hits all season long, all off season, no preseason, obviously. So him taking those hits, ball pops out a little bit easier, maybe. I don't know. I'm not making excuses for the guy, but that was really odd. His fumbling of the football, it came far too easy. Robert Wright, run plays take too long to develop. I am still not entirely sold on Brian Daboll. Too much trickery. Just play football. Robert Wright, I'm with it. I'm with it 100%. Run plays do take too long, and the reason they take too long, the mixing of the option running game with Josh Allen as the quarterback and the actual true running game from the Buffalo Bills with Devin Singletary, with Zach Moss, that starts to become a little bit of a cluster, when the team is either handing the ball off or keeping the ball, handing the ball off or keeping the ball. It's actually confusing to the offense. And that's what I have seen. The only people that are getting confused by Brian Daboll's, running with Josh Allen on the options or, not handing the ball off to Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. A really bad defense gets confused by that. A great defense doesn't. And it actually confuses the offense because we saw delayed handoffs, some awkward handoffs, slow handoffs from Josh Allen, as well as Devin Singletary and Zach Moss hesitating to get to the ball, wondering whether they were actually getting it or not. Now, these run pass options, RPO plays that were originated by the Philadelphia Eagles, and Doug Peterson and Andy Reid, the guy that Sean McDermott worked under. It's no secret that McDermott, although a defensive coach, wants to embrace the offensive packages that Andy Reid implemented in Philly. Brian Daboll likes to implement those offensive packages because he has a college background at Alabama with Nick Saban. This is not college. This is pros. These guys, the safeties are as fast as the corners and they hit harder. The linebackers are as fast as the safeties and they hit harder. The defensive linemen are as fast as the linebackers. This is a new age of NFL defenses. And I'm not saying that means they're better or worse than previous eras. It's just different. And for Brian Daboll to mix these running plays in the way that he has, I thought it was actually really ineffective against a Jets defense, run defense that is fairly good, but the defense as a whole is not. They are not. The Jets are a bad football team, and I'd be stunned if they won 6 or 7 games this year. I'll be stunned. Travis Blakesley says, loved everything aside from 2 fumbles, no push up front in run game, and 2 injured LBs. So I want to talk specifically, Travis, about your comment as far as no push up front in the run game. The run blocking was not quite there either. The whole running dimension to their offense was actually lacking yesterday. Outside of Allen, it was pretty lacking. And Allen was forced to run at this alarming rate that I never want to see again, period. I never want to see it again. I hope that it never comes up again. I hope this never comes up as a topic of discussion from me on this show because it frustrates me so much. It frustrates me so badly. I can't say it enough. I can't. It makes me so mad. So that's that. Josh Carpenter says, liked Allen's overall game, Diggs' debut, disliked. Fumbling, still a problem for Allen. No run game for the running backs. Bass having an off day. Hopefully that's all it was. And folks, with Josh Carpenter's comment, I actually dove into the first two topics already. So I'm not going to dive into those. With all due respect to Josh, he'll see me dive into those as he watches this video. But Allen, no run, Allen / no run game for the RBs. Bass having an off day. I read tweets yesterday that were so ridiculous about Tyler Bass. So ridiculous. Oh my God, we made a mistake cutting Stephen Hauschka. Oh my God, that's why you don't cut a veteran. That's why you keep a veteran kicker on this roster. It was one game. One game. And let's be honest, Bass missing field goals against the New York Jets is not the biggest problem in the world. And I'm not going to say with all due respect because the Jets flat out suck. They stink. They are terrible. And I'm talking from a football perspective, not as a Bills fan, not as a homer, not as anything like that. The Jets are so bad, they should be ashamed that Adam Gase is their head coach. He is terrible because Adam Gase had opportunities in that game yesterday to make things closer, and he did not. So Tyler Bass is okay with me. He'll right the ship. I'm not worried about it. Let's dive into some comments. Lee Brooks says, cute dog Lee, let him play his game. That's why we picked him. And he's referring to Josh Allen. Lee, I saw your comment pop up as I was talking about Josh Allen. Yeah, let him play his game. That's why we picked him. And his game is moving the ball with his legs. But his game is moving the ball with his legs when plays actually break down. Wyoming did not use Josh Allen on designed running plays. Wyoming recognized, okay, that Josh Allen was all they had. Name me another player that is picked 7th overall in an NFL draft out of Wyoming, not named Josh Allen. I'm waiting. It doesn't exist. So protect your investment. Protect your investment. Protect Josh Allen. Do not run him 14 times. This is not college football. And I don't know if Brian Daboll's trying to find an angle to become a head coach. Maybe, dare I say, maybe Brian Daboll doesn't actually care about the longevity of Josh Allen because he feels like he's not going to be here much longer. I don't know. I'm trying to find the rationale between why Daboll would want Josh Allen to run the ball 14 times in a game. I can't find it. Let's draft a guy for what we like and try to change his game is the worst idea. Hey, Mike Vick, we don't want you to run. Only throw our hand off. So, yeah, they have to use Josh to his strengths. They can't use Josh to his weaknesses. One of his strengths is running the ball, but on design plays, that takes one of his strengths away. He's not great at running on designed runs 14 times, maybe 2 or 3 or 4. That's okay, but 14, no. Jason said, did you like the combo of Ford and Williams on the right side? You know what, Jason, I did. I thought that, the line looked really good in terms of pass protection. And my biggest criticism of Josh Allen yesterday was he did a little bit too much of surveying the field. I would have liked to have seen Allen, get the ball out a little bit quicker. The quarterbacks that have shown longevity in this league, the Tom Brady's of the world, Drew Brees of the world, Peyton Manning's of the world. Obviously, Peyton's been retired for a couple of years now, but those guys get the ball out of their hand quickly. And they do that with great offensive lines. I think it is better for your offense to have a quarterback that gets the ball out of his hand quicker. It's better for the receivers that are coming out of their break to get the ball right in their hands. And the Bills have those guys that have a rarity in terms of speed in close distance, in short space. Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, John Brown, the top 3, Gabe Davis as well on outside routes to the sideline. I thought showed true speed out there, and I loved watching that. On the limited action that he got in terms of Allen getting the ball to him. I thought that right side of the offensive line in particular was very good. Mitch Morse, not as good as I thought he'd be in this first week. Mitch Morse was a solid run blocking center, paved the way for a lot of really nice runs within the last season or so, and didn't really do that yesterday in terms of the run blocking. It wasn't up to par. So yeah, that's that. I definitely enjoyed the game, though. Like I said, I can't say it enough. I've greatly enjoyed hopping on this show and diving into all the topics that I cover on this show, whether it's Buffalo Bills football, which is obviously the most popular. I'm a Buffalo guy, born and raised in Western New York. And, I cover not just the Buffalo Bills, but boxing, mixed martial arts, NHL, baseball, a little bit of basketball here and there, not much. Really, I'm big on the NCAA March Madness tournament, which didn't happen this year, obviously, due to the crazy times that we're living in. But I have greatly enjoyed just interacting with all the listeners and the viewers of the show. It has been an awesome, couple months here leading up to the season, as I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people within the Thomas Take Sports Podcast fan base, if you want to call it that, or followers. So I greatly enjoyed bringing the show to you guys, and I hope you do too. And I know that you guys hate the sweater. Jason, I get it. I understand. But my grandfather was an avid Boston Red Sox fan, knew everything about baseball, got me into playing baseball, and was he was a coach for 40 years, got me into playing, and I played pretty well. That was my best sport. So I was born into my Red Sox fandom. So, I didn't join the parade, in 2004. I was a Red Sox fan from 1992 on, from birth. So dating myself there, but, just to put it in perspective, Nomar Garciaparra was one of my favorite players in Red Sox history. When the Red Sox traded him, I was very, very angry as a kid then. 12 years old, they trade your hero. It was pretty heartbreaking, and I know a lot of kids are going through that right now with the Mookie Betts trade. I felt like I was reliving the Nomar trade when they traded Mookie Betts away, but it is what it is. Near and dear to my heart, though, is Buffalo sports, and as Tim Giles has called me before, Mr. Buffalo through and through. Technically the B and this hoodie is for Boston, but I've always been a Bills fan, Boston fan, Boston Red Sox fan, I should say, and a Buffalo Sabres fan, obviously. So I greatly enjoy, covering these sports on my podcast, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. You can find my show right here on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook page as well. YouTube. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as well. Very active on both, on every avenue, really, social media-wise, at Ryan Thomas Take on YouTube and Facebook, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. You see it on the ticker there, the Thomas Take ticker. And I hope you guys really enjoyed the show tonight. I enjoyed allowing you guys to fire some comments at me, reading some of your comments. Greatly enjoyed it. You guys stay safe. On to week 2, the Bills, time to squish the fish in Miami. They are allowing fans for this game. So I'm excited to see if any Buffalonians make the trip down to South Beach and check out the Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. I'll be providing a preview of that game with a special guest this Wednesday. So stay tuned right here on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm Ryan Thomas. Stay safe, and let's go Buffalo.